Groundeffected. My name is your dad, and today I am painting Galactus, but it's not the one that you're thinking of. This version is devoid of any purple and is pretty much made of gold and silver for some reason, and this sparked an inspirational talk amongst myself and Frankie over who the heck is this fantastical, mythical, galactical man in a mask, and Frankie's going to tell us about that in a minute. But before he does that, I want to just tell you about the paints I'm using. Montana Spray Gold Chrome is magic. It's literally magic, but spray it, don't touch it, leave it to dry for like 4 days before you even come near it, otherwise you're going to have a sad time. Trust me, just don't do that. And the silver that I used to spray with, by the way, did not stick to save my life, so don't use that one. Try a different one, not the one I'm using. I'm just gonna soldier on. Now over to Frankie.
Uncle Frankie here, and today I'm here to tell you all about the Great Devourer Galactus, but more specifically the Lifebringer version. This year the first family of Marvel is coming to the MCU. That's right, we are getting the Fantastic Four, and my little nerd brain couldn't be more excited. Honestly, if I can make this whole section about how in love with the things I vow I am, I would. But we are here to talk about Galactus. At this point in time, we've had a couple very brief glances of Galactus in the form of his foot sweeping away traffic in his ominous silhouette looming over New York. So the question is the Galactus that your dad is painting the one who will be getting in the movie? No, it isn't. I'm pretty much certain that the Galactus that will appear in the Fantastic Four is going to be our traditional boy in purple. However, the one we are painting today is a very special variation of him called Lifebringer, which is where Galactus changed from being the Devourer of Worlds to the Lifebringer in an ultimate storyline by Al Ewing and Kenneth Rocafort. In this story, in order to make sure Galactus wouldn't turn up and snack on Earth, the Ultimates trapped Galactus in his incubator and used it to alter his very nature. Suddenly, he was wanting to restore all the planets that he had once consumed. He started by restoring the very first planet he had destroyed, Archaeopia. Flash forward, and eventually the two cosmic beings of order and chaos merged together to create Logos, which then reverted Galactus back to his ever-hungry state. So today we are painting the good guy version of Galactus. We almost certainly won't be seeing him on the screen anytime soon, but we can enjoy his gold and silver panels right now.
Now, I used these cheap paints that I found at the hardware store, which, I'm gonna be totally honest, were not the best idea. This one, the Chaos Black, however, fantastic. Except for the only place that I needed to paint black was his face, and we'll get back to this later, but for now we need to prepare a whole load of surfaces before we start to mask them. And obviously there are a couple of other things that I just felt like I could maybe paint them slightly differently. So these little gems that are around his waist, I printed these in transparent resin, and then I decided to paint them with a yellow ink, and I felt like the yellow ink was gonna make it look different and not just the same as everything else, because it's mostly just samey with silver and gold on absolutely everything on this model. So for the ink, which is it's literally so thin it can go through an airbrush, you don't have to mix it, but you can mix it depending on what your purpose is, and my purpose was to make a tinted yellow thing, so I used the ink neat. Now for the silver that's going to match as close as possible to the silver that I sprayed, I used the one from Ammo by Mig, which is literally just called silver. This is what the gold looks like once you have let it dry, and trust me, you need to let it dry for a very long time. And because I'm an excellent and professional film maker, I decided not to film painting those balls, so you can just imagine how it looked with me painting balls by watching me paint another ball. And this ball is actually some form of a planet, which is inside of the Lifebringer's hand, and I'm going to be painting this just so that I can tint it a little bit later on, but we'll get back to that because now I need to start the absolutely arduous task of masking. And I'm holding my head because I absolutely hate masking. Masking is one of the worst things in the world, just because it takes so long to do. Honestly, it takes so long to do. But with silver and gold, in fact, with any metallic colors, you kind of can't really get away without masking. You have to mask, and when it comes to masking, you need to use as many kinds of tapes as you possibly can to make sure that you have the best chance for success. Now this is where I started to encounter a problem, which was when I had painted over the top of that silver, which was not actually adhered nicely to the resin underneath it. But we won't talk about it. This is going to become a new ongoing trend on the channel, whereby we'll just not talk about the mistakes that we see, and we'll just pass over them as if they were normal thing to do. That's because they are a normal thing to do. We're not always going to be perfect every time, and that includes anyone, actually. So sometimes I'm going to make mistakes, and in this video I definitely made a mistake, but I think I do bring it together near the end. Now that I have got some feet done, it's easy enough to stick these in place, but I'm being very careful not to touch any of that gold, because that gold is fresh. It's literally been painted like 15 minutes before I stuck these feet on, so we can't mess around here. I do want to mention something though. When you are masking stuff, personally I find it better to unmask it while the paint is still wet. This is a massive risk, however, because if you touch the wet paint, it's game over. You might as well throw it against the wall and go and play some Fortnite. Very important to remember that if you are masking and you're starting a new paint job with masking involved, you're going to need to use your sharp knife, and if you have not changed your blade, you will have a sad time. Just trust me on this. Change your blade. Just buy a whole bunch of blades and it will make your life so much easier using a brand new blade over any blade that you have been used to scrape along the side of any kind of resin. Trust me, it will make you very, very upset. This is the part where I'm unmasking things, and you can see I'm trying to do this as carefully as possible so as not to let any of these pieces of tape touch anywhere else. Also, not to allow any of the paint to touch the other color, which is the silver. And the reason why I like to mask or take off the mask early is because I feel like once the paint dries, it gives you more chance for it to crack or peel off when you pull it off, and it's got this like layer over the top that is dried. While it's still wet, it tears away quite easily, and I feel like gives me a tidier edge. However, I'll be honest, and most of my edges on this model look like, honestly, we try not to talk about it, but it is one of those things. I just hate masking, and it's probably because I'm just really bad at it. This video was sponsored by Jace the Sculptor, and this is a new Patreon over on the area called Patreon, whereby you will subscribe to this my dude and he will make you models, the kind that you can 3D print. I'm gonna be totally honest, it's only $9.99, whatever the small part of dollars is. This dude is just starting out and I want you to go and support him, so please go check out the description, go and look at his models and the rest of his body of work, and just subscribe. Thank you, tell him that I sent you. Also, thank you to the sponsor of this video for indeed sponsoring this video. Now I can get back to precariously handling models that have got fresh spray paint on them and trying to place them into place so I can complete this model. And speaking of precariously handling pieces of model with fresh paint on them, I need to now paint this world in some form of a way. So I'm going to obviously paint some shapes of lands on them, and then I'm going to completely ruin it by spraying whatever this is, this nifty keel oxide, whatever this thing is called. I think this ruined my earth, and mostly because it ruined the gold, and at this point I am not going back. I'm literally going forward. We're going to keep going, and we're just going to paint the face. This I genuinely put off for like 2 days because I have to mask this as well, and this is not an easy thing to mask, but let's paint that skin tone before we worry about actually painting or doing anything with the mask. So skin tones is normal. I'm gonna spray pinkle. People have asked what that is. It's not a specific color, it's just something that looks pink but not pink and not purple. Something like that is a good base color with red. Then I'm gonna start with a slightly darker skin tone, very thin down, and I'm gonna work my way up until I use Orcish Dermis to bring some of the saturation back into the skin, and then I use a little bit of a light color closer to white, and I'll spray that on the highlights, and this time I'm going to lock it in with a matte varnish out of a spray can, and I'm going to dry that for a good couple of hours before I take out this putty. And this putty, it works, I'm not going to lie, it does the job, but it's very scary doing this. I used a very small old needle from one of my airbrushes that is bent on the tip, and I've forced this putty into the shape of the shapes that I needed to mask. I will be honest, you need to check and make sure before you do this layer of spray, because if you are not sure and there is a tiny gap, you're gonna have a sad time, but you might be able to pick it off of that mat underneath. That's the reason for putting the mat, but also to help lock it in place, and very carefully pick that out afterwards. This, my bum was squeezed so tight, there is genuinely, if I had a piece of coal in there, I would have pinched you a massive diamond while doing this. I then took some silver and I painted over all the little silver trim bits that are left on the model to paint silver. Now for the last thing that might also cause ruination of the model, and that is to paint the glow in his eyes. And the reason this could cause a ruination is because of the fact that these gold and metallic paints do not like other paints going on top of them. It tends to make them go funky colors. It's how it works. I don't know why it does that, but it does that. So this is a scary thing, but I used some white to set it up at first, then I took some yellow fluorescence and yellow ink mixed together to spray the base color down, and then I sprayed white back into the centers of them again, and then that's pretty much where I can put the head on top of this model and call it done. This was one of those models that really tested my patience, and Jace, to the man who sculpted this, dude, if you ever make me use masking tape ever again, I swear to God I will haunt you when I die from the pressures of using the masking tape. But I do digress, because I do want to make sure that you understand, if you are watching this video, then you should probably click the like button, and also maybe give me a subscribe. I'm so close to getting 100,000 subscribers. I know I keep saying it, but at least 40% of you are not actually subscribed to my channel. So we could have 100,000 in the matter of days. So why are you not subscribing, bro? Anyway, I want to say a massive thank you at this part of the video to my Patreons for their support over on Patreon. I do post a load of pictures and stuff that I'm working on in the background over on Patreon, and a couple of updates and stuff here and there. There is a small community going. If you want to join it, go check in the link in the description. And of course, we are now at the point of the video where I get to tell you that if you didn't like anything you saw in this video, you just need to understand that I don't care. And you can kindly, in fact very nicely, f*** off. Show.